Center here. So this building, or this area, has only been in two families, the Bell family and the Tierney family. What we feel is our main focus is the Bell Tierney house, which was located where the American Inn was. And they were, about 40 years ago, they were going to tear it down, and a group of citizens got together and said, absolutely not. The Bell Tierney families are a big part of our about 40 years ago, 40 or maybe 50, I think it's 40-ish, 50.
I can remember.
The barn was here, so they had the house moved back to where it currently sits, and then they've added buildings as time goes. Like, I'm not sure where the office is, that house is from. I know the church is from Superior, Wisconsin. They bought it for $1 and paid to have it moved. They built the history shed, which is this moving displays. The Camp 9 school is from Glenwood City. The U-Bet store is from U-Bet, which is just north of town, which is nothing anymore. The blacksmith shop was built. The Norwegian cabin is from Reeve, Wisconsin, that area. And I'm hoping that Bevis told me she should unlock all of them. That building housed now 9 people in a family, and it was actually used as late as 1950s. So, and then we have a marshal's office, which was built. It's not. It was the brainchild of Chuck Mills. If anyone knows him, he just thought it would be really cool to have a marshal office where people would stay in. They would be arrested and stay there until they would be able to be moved to an actual jail. So we just a little bit that I find interesting is we are funded a lot by the barn. The barn is where we have a flea market. We take donations from the community, and it's a great fundraiser for us. So, yeah. All right, what do you want me to do next? And I don't.
So the next thing you should do is say, let each person introduce themselves.
All right, everybody.
And give 2 sentences to brag.
Oh, okay.
William Johnson from the Frederick Area Historical Society. We have our fundraiser, our Strawberry Shortcake fundraiser, coming up this Saturday from 10 to about 3 in the afternoon at our 1901 Sioux Line Depot up in Frederick. And one connection down here, you see all the skis up there, which I assume are tied together with the Strand Ski Company from Yale.
Yep.
My mother's name was Strand, came from Norway, so I might be related into that connection with Marcus Strand. Haven't checked it out yet. But.
Huge factory in Richmond, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Al Foxwell. I live in Amory, and I help a lot with the Polk County Museum in Balsam Lake. I've always liked history, and my parents were history buffs, and it's I guess kind of passed on to me, and so I try to do whatever needs to be done, and we have had. I know that we've had this big building, and that's good, but we also realize that buildings can sometimes be too big, and we have too many things. People sometimes used to leave stuff on our doorstep. Maybe you have experienced that too, and we made a real conscious effort to downsize. So I always like to come to these meetings because they get good ideas from everybody.
I'm Tim Weiss. I'm the Clear Lake Historical Group, as is Lori. I guess the big thing coming up for us would be Clear Lake Heritage Days, which is the last full weekend in June. So it isn't. We don't do anything as a fundraiser for it, but there'll be people in the museum. And that's actually when we're opening for the season, because we're still recovering from our water catastrophe from a few years back. But we'll be fully functional by Clear Lake Days.
I'm Dave Strucky, Turtle Lake Museum, and we just opened last weekend. The rush and promotion that it takes to get everything set up. We are looking for volunteers, and I know one of the problems that everybody has is finding volunteers, and we're kind of down to the end. I don't, we put a lot of time and effort into it, and we are having a hard time finding people that are willing to, donate. And 1 hour a year, or, you know, 1 day a year, it's just crude. Anyway.
I'm Tammy with the Pioneer Village Museum. We've been, feels like I'm already out of breath for this summer. School tours, I know you're gonna talk about school tours here, but we did 2,000 kids, and then we've been open for a couple of weeks. We've had 2 big events, third one well, one was, it was actually 4 school tours. We had a folklorist who got a grant and wanted to do this big event, which is like a 3-part thing. But it's, the first one was with the school kids. So we had weavers and dancers and storytellers come from the Somali Museum out in the cities, and from up at Duluth for the Norwegian part of it, because it was like mixing. I know that's a weird combination, but mixing Norwegian and Somalian culture. And the connection was that they are 2 big groups that came to our area as immigrants, maybe 100 and some years apart, but some of the experiences are real similar, so we were just kind of doing a little bit about both of their cultures. And then this coming weekend, we have our Native American Heritage Day, and the next weekend is Midsummer's Eve, which is like a maypole bonfire, lesson making, that kind of stuff.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. And then it's Pioneer Heritage, no, then it's the quilt show and Strawberry Fest, and then we're done with June. So it's like, I'm already stressed.
Yeah.
And not, you know, I can start out the year where I feel, okay, we're ready this far in. We usually, as far in as we're good through June, we got everything figured out and we're ready. And I don't feel that way at all this year, so it's kind of a little stressful. Cause then by the end of June, then you gotta be thinking, now I gotta hurry up and get everything ready for July. And you're always playing catch up then the whole time. But this year it happened earlier, so it should be fun and interesting.
Hi, good morning, friends. I'm Sarah Pika. I just retired from teaching history and English in Cameron. I was there for 30 years, and now I'm working with Tammy at the museum. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some ideas how to get more youth involved, working with the schools.
Awesome.
Because we need your help.
Yes.
Desperately. So I'm looking forward to that today. And yeah, it's been a great summer so far. It's just very busy, something every weekend, but it's a good busy.
Charles Snap, with Marion County Historic Society and archivist of the Pioneer Village Museum.
That's yours? Okay. Diane Struckey, Turtle Lake Museum, and we have big ideas of things we want to do. We need lots of money and some people, and I think we're going to make our museum better, so. And I just had to call and twist a few people's arms. I get people in town. I just have to cry. Please.
We're trying to move a little church that we own in town.
Move
2
it up
blocks.
next to the museum.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a meeting hall. We'll have a church with pews, and it'll be beautiful. People can have weddings there. Again, right now, the foundation is getting bad, so the floor is bad, so we can't even rent it out. So it's just, we're gonna lose it if we don't have it, so.
So have you seen those videos of the Amish people moving a barn? Like 100 of them
Yeah.
out and grab a hold of each corner and
Yeah.
carry it down.
Well, all of us can do that. It's not very big. I measured
No.
it, I forget what it is. It's little.
It's tall, though. It's like 30 feet tall.
So this group could have work days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, today we're gonna move it 3 feet.
Is that possible? Do they really
Yeah,
just
they do.
They do.
frame it
There's-
up on the bottom and then?
Yeah.
There are videos that
That's how they
show.
moved law.
Yeah.
That's how they moved the town law. And Cameron too, they moved.
Yeah, that's right.
Huh, maybe. I thought they put it on logs and rolled them.
I don't know how they're gonna do this, but we actually have some people who are excited about it, and they're doing the groundwork, contacting people about foundations and movers and stuff,
You
so.
need a grant for us.
Yeah, and then
Right.
once we get an estimate, then we can write a few grants, and I'm gonna try the Green Bay Packers, because I think every once in a while they have a year where they do.
This year's education and stuff, so I think you could probably.
Yeah.
Education and cultural Heritage, I think, this
Well,
is
they
year.
have, yeah, they have
Yeah,
themes.
this year.
They usually have several.
So,
Yeah.
We're gonna be holding some classes in there, right?
Yeah, we can have
Yeah.
classes. We
I
can
think
have
it's due, I
movies.
think it's due on like July 1st though.
I know, we won't have it by then, we'll do both for next year.
Gotcha.
And then I have to see what they have for next year. We've gotten grants twice for our library, we've gotten money for books, so. And then they have a big dinner, and they have a lot of fun, you go to Green Bay, and get together, yeah, very cool.
I'm Brenna Weston, I'm the director of the Polk County Museum in Balsam Lake. So I was the one that sent out the email saying that it was in Balsam Lake, and then I changed it because I changed it. So, that was me.
But that's probably my fault.
No, that's no worries, so that was me. So if anybody's at the museum, well, I guess we'll find out later. Yeah, we've been open, we just started year-round hours this year in January, so we've been open since January 1 up at the museum.
This is the first year?
Yep, this is the first year, yeah, so, and then we've obviously had a bunch of school tours as well, so just kind of gearing up for the summer, so we're just trying to plan things out. We have our Freedom Fest up in Balsam Lake at the weekend of July 4th, or whatever, 6th and 7th, I think. And then we're planning our annual fundraiser for August, so that'll probably be an item on the later new business, so.
Do you get funding from Polk County still? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Michelle Starbuck. I am the director for the Luck Museum. And we have lots going on, actually. I'm almost going to say we have too much going on. We have, starting this afternoon, we have a meat raffle at the Bonton with some very, very nice prizes. We also have our Appleskiver on Saturday, July 20th, from 8 to 11, or until we run out, and usually we run out around 10:30. So be there early. We also have, and I'm not ready to hand this out really, August 5th we have a gala dinner at the Luck Golf Course, obviously in their restaurant. It includes dinner, Sunday bar, we have a live, not to say live band, we have Indian Head Barbershop Quartet. We have a speaker, and that is, his name is Sean Schottler. He's a former director for research at the Science Museum in Minnesota. And we will also have a silent auction. And we will have tickets started to be available next week.
What's the date on that?
August 5th, which is a Monday. And we realize it's not on the weekend. It's because they are only open, I want to say it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And they wanted us to take it on a day when they're not open, so that we can have a whole dining room.
I think that's better anyway, because I think we'll get better turnout.
And so Monday, I don't know why I picked Monday, but I picked Monday. And we are going around to different organizations to see if we can get sponsors for the silent auction, as well as we have other items for auction. I don't know what else.
How much are tickets?
Oh, thank you. $60 per person or 2 per 100. And as I said, the tickets will not be available until next week. I haven't made yet, but this is the mock-up. I'm afraid to pass it around on them, and we are only taking cash and check on those, not credit card, just because it's a fundraiser.
So I can see, you know how they have these parades, they used to have these Shriners driving these little cars around? Well, we could do that with golf cart cars. Have a,
You know, I can just see that now that
for a parade, have a golf cart to.
the cutoff for that, if you want to buy tickets, is July 22nd. And we can't have anybody paying at the door, so. But we hope all 3 fundraisers will be good, so.
Do you have something in mind for where the money's going to?
The money is going to benefit the museum.
Just
Yep,
general.
operations, yeah. Since we're not funded through city taxes and the grants that we're looking at, there are very few grants out there that we can see that are for general operations. So we've been doing, with the help of Al's wife, Colleen, who's been helping me write grants. We've been doing the programs, we've been requesting funding for programs, and that's not necessarily a huge amount of money, so wherever we get it would be great.
Yeah.
But we also thought, oh, and one thing I almost forgot. August 23rd, that's a Friday. We are having an open house, and we haven't got all of the details yet, but we're doing 80s Revisited. We're doing a display, we're having a band, Lawless, it's gonna be playing, and we're gonna have games, prizes, and if people want, they can come dressed as if they were back in the 1980s.
Just a thought on that, I don't remember what museum it was, I don't know who was at the conference that might remember, but the state conference, there was a museum that was, every year at Christmas has been doing a nostalgic, like the 80s or the 70s
Okay.
or whatever, and it's been so popular, they're getting thousands of people coming now, and they're coming back year after year, and it's just
cool.
growing and
Very
growing,
cool.
because people like that nostalgia thing, it's in their memory, it's in their lifetime.
Yeah, and what we're going to be doing is, I realize that not everybody is clothes is putting back in the 80s, so.
You can get them at the flea market.
That's true too.
I have to wear maternity clothes.
To bring in a picture of yourself from the 1980s, and of course, obviously, what you look like today. So, yeah, and we're looking forward to that. One of our board members actually came up with that, and I told her, you go for it. You know, you give people ownership and see what happens. I like that idea.
I hope they take it.
What's that?
I hope they take it.
Oh, they will. Oh, she is so psyched. I have not seen her there. Seriously, she has the energy. It was like, I know she works a lot of hours for her job, but all of a sudden she has all this energy. I'm thinking, where's it coming from? It's something really positive that she wants to go with it. So you've got to give volunteers the opportunity to own something, and I think that it can just snowball.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like our chapel, the people that decided, yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, they aren't even on our board or anything, they're just doing it. And they have the contacts, it's like,
I want to know if any of that energy is available for the rest of us.
Right. Oh, it's there, as long
Oh,
as,
it's there.
as long as we're not inundated. My friend Russ.
I won't mention that you forgot to say the apple skeever.
I did.
Oh, you did.
I did.
All right, so I had a couple of handouts. Russ Hanson from the Sterling, Eureka, and Laketown Historical Society, with a museum on the top of the hill in Cushing, the site where the 1870s Indian scare, where the settlers gathered to defend Cushing from they thought was going to be an uprising. I handed out a couple of things to show a little bit of what we're doing. This is in the 1970s, the Polk County Historical Society got really ambitious. They had a bunch of old men that didn't have anything to do, and so they routed out about 400 signs and put out throughout the county in conjunction with the homemakers finding the sites and stuff, and historical markers. Well, most of those are either faded away, tipped over, or gone. However, there was a map they created also, so we decided to do a virtual map of there were 373 on their site on the map, so we are transferring those. So each of these on the website, which is listed below, if you click on it, it'll tell you what the marker said and the exact location. So if you wanted to go there, our next step is putting behind each one of those dots a picture, some text, a little history of it. But we got a little funding to do that from one of our members. The newsletter, I got the handouts over there, just shows one of the things our History Society does is we pick a veteran in a local cemetery, and every year for like the last 15 years we have done some research on them, and then at the Memorial Day celebration, which was Memorial Day, they have a pretty big turnout at Wolf Creek Cemetery. Something like 150 people show up, and then the church next door, this is not a church cemetery, has the Ladies' Aid has lunch for everybody. So anyway, so it's a good thing to have our activity in, and so and I'm also sexton of the cemetery, so This is, we picked a Native American, yeah?
One per year, one veteran?
Yeah, we just do one a year, so we've done 15 so far. And, oh, I shouldn't say that, because one year we got ambitious and did 12 World War I veterans
Oh, wow.
and a booklet, but that was when I was young and ambitious. Anyway, so in here it talks about our cemetery in Wolf Creek had 3 Native Americans who were in the Civil War, and so this is a little bit about that. And then it's also a little bit about the cemetery and a little bit about our historical society. The other handout is something that Brenna reminded me that in the December meeting we had talked about sending off a letter to the Wisconsin Historical Society about digitizing local newspapers. And so I actually wrote it up then, and of course forgot about it right away. The things that might be of interest to you, if you're in Polk County, every year the Polk County Fair, the historical societies can put information in the old red schoolhouse on the fairgrounds and have information about your museum or historical society or whatever you want to put. And we get a couple thousand people through, so when you do your annual report, you can say, well, I had a display here where 2,000 people came through and studied it. But this year's theme at the schoolhouse is the Polk County Teachers College, or Normal School. Barron County had one too, but it was a 2-year teachers college that lasted from, first graduating class was 1907, and it ended up in Frederick, was in St. Croix Falls, in 1971. And I was looking at the cost of that, said that $20 for books a year. My older brother went to that back in the early 60s. But anyway, $20 book fees, 35 cents for the noon lunch, and the tuition was paid by the county. So you ended up going to school for maybe $100 a semester or something like that, counting your travel and that, because you stayed at home. So anyway, that's what we're working on, is trying to get some information about that as the theme for the Red Schoolhouse.
Have you ever read the book Sophie's Travels? It was written by a teacher from over by, well, she was the superintendent over at Ladysmith. I think that might, I mean, I know it's
Sophie's
a different
Travels.
area, but it might really directly relate
Yeah,
to it.
I'll write it down soon here so I don't forget.
Also, I had sent something out, we had an email, or I had an email from Greg Copeland from UW Eau Claire, and they got a grant, and they're trying to do kind of this, I think that, I can't remember what he said. I sent it out to people at the time when they sent it to me, but you might want to contact him. He's the archivist at UW Eau Claire.
Yeah, and he's the guy who, when we used to have him on our mailing list, said, he replied, don't send these to me. So we'll put him back on maybe.
Well, or just give him a call and
Okay,
see
yeah.
if this is something.
Okay, that sounds
you would help
interesting,
with.
okay. Yeah, well anyway, so already, how you do this stuff is you ask the local museum. So the county museum says, Brenda says, we got a box of some stuff on that. The archives out in Falls said, well, we have these pieces of information and stuff, and then some on normal schools, they call them, in the area. So anyway, we're collecting stuff. And on Thursday afternoon of the fair, the early first day, which is kind of calm afternoon, we're attempting to have a reunion of the teachers that had graduated from the 2-year school, which is the youngest would be early 70s, because it closed in 71, and they would be like born in 51 if they graduated then. So anyway, that's our attempt to do that. But no, I've exhausted my time, but I'm going to keep going. The museum in Cushing theme this summer is town baseball. We had a Cushing Tigers team from about 1900 to roughly 1980, and they were quite serious about ball things, and so we've gathered a lot of old trophies and different things and scrapbooks and stuff from people. So that's our theme. And at Cushing Fun Day, which is in 24th of August, we'll have a reunion of the Cushing Tigers that are still around, which are some. And I have only 7 more. Okay. The events coming up, the Sunday after Father's Day is the 86th year of the Sterling Old Settlers Picnic. And so we took that over after the committee kind of dissolved. And so that's, we recognize the older folks in town, in the area, and it's not really limited to Sterling or anything. So that comes up as our next event. You're all invited. Al came one time, felt kind of young there, but
Should look for a reason to go, right?
okay.
My name is Jim Ivey, I'm from the Area Historical Society, and we are looking forward to our grand opening of the new museum in Amory. That will be coming up on July 5th. And I see on the agenda we are having some discussion about the America 250, which I have a direct connection with, in that my third great grandfather of my wife is being celebrated as one of the 250 patriots.
I'm Diana Weiss-Haley, and I'm also from the Amory Area Historical Society and Museum.
Yes, let's not forget.
Yeah, we had our sneak peek a couple weeks ago, and it was a great turnout. So, looking forward to being ready for the July 5th opening. One of the activities we're looking at for fundraising is a golf tournament, and that's going to be on August 27th. So, and also, I have our news book. They made me stop writing at 330 pages. So, but there's something I'd like to put out there is, if you have books from your homes and whatever museum, I'll swap it. So the one for one. And then I also brought some pictures of our journey from getting that building, cleaning it up, painting it, and getting ready. So if you want to look at it, there you go.
How many people did you have?
Oh, probably 60 plus.
Oh, it seemed like 100. I don't know, because we were counting the lines, but there were 2 people on some lines.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did you use Amazon for your publishing?
No. We went to, well, we look it up. Third Choice Printing. One of our commitments we've made is to use local vendors for a lot of what we do. So they've done really nice.
What was your cost?
$19 a book,
That's the cost?
a book, to print it, yeah.
It's a big book.
But it's got great paper, the paper is, you're not going to tear it. I mean, you will if you want to. But, yeah, they did a nice job. I'm really happy with what they did.
So what will you sell those for?
Pardon me?
What will you sell those for?
35. We're about ready to start the second printing, so.
How many did you have printed?
200.
200?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're about ready to do the printing.
How long did it take you to compile it?
Oh, I've worked on it for a year.
For you?
A lot of what's in there is what we have from the old ones, but what I did is I went back, 'cause like in the first one that was done at the time was very relevant to what was in there. And they would say like, the good, or the Costco store is now where the IGA store is. Well, that's not relevant, nobody does that. So I tried to make sure that street addresses were referenced instead. So just try to update everything.
Where is that book?
The what?
Where's Clear Church?
Anyway, you know, the,
It's done by the McDonald's.
Behind
Yeah.
McDonald's. Yeah, they did a really nice job, so.
Yeah, the photos are really good in there.
Yeah, I got those enhanced, I worked on getting those enhanced, so I'm still working a little more on it too, so. Hopefully.
Well, congratulations. That's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, we did a good job, yeah. So feel free to take a look at it. I do have a box in the car if anybody wants to buy one. Or if that's your book, I'll swap you.
So are you a heated building?
We have
So you're gonna be open
a
in
real
there?
building.
Huh?
We have heat and air and carpet and
bathrooms.
and
And electricity.
And a bath.
So have we set our December location yet?
I would love to do it. I love to.
You've got a great meeting room there.
We said that if we didn't use Balsam Lake, that they had our first option at it for a winter one.
Oh, I'm
That's
fine
what
if
you
you
guys-
I'm fine if you
Oh,
guys wanna do it.
I would love to host this, absolutely. Because we've got a good sized classroom and, with a workshop. And we did TV, so we could do, what's that called, meetings where they call in? Zoom meetings?
Video,
Anybody wants to
or
do
Zoom,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're all looking at you.
Here's my partner in crime.
Yeah, I'm very, Diana's husband.
So what do you do for her?
Oh. I try to, this man, I could not have helped, that museum would not be together without him. He is amazing. What? Say it.
I'm maintenance.
I'm high maintenance. Oh, you work well together. Yeah.
I love it.
And they came to our museum on
Yes.
Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sunday. Was fun.
Mm-hmm. It was great. Yeah.
All right. Do you do a motion to approve?
Yeah, for approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Is anyone taking notes?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Okay, motion carried. All right, approve the minutes from April 23rd. Russ sent, has a YouTube video.
Do we have copies of those minutes from April 23rd?
If you went back, if you clicked on the link and went back and,
Yeah, I don't have actual
Watched it.
minutes, I just
I-
saw the video.
yeah, I didn't go back and look, but I trust that since it was an actual, I would,
Probably pretty accurate.
yeah. I wonder if we do need to sometime commit them to paper, but.
Only,
But it's-
I think only if we are an official 501c3.
And that's a discussion.
Wait, you think that there is?
Only for like an official 501c3 or like official.
Organization.
Oh, that we have good thing, that's on the later discussion.
Okay, we'll move on to that.
Is there an agenda?
Copy. Sorry, if I'm talking to you now, I have plugged up here, and I have only 1 year to hear
I
with.
think,
You're not,
I
you're
don't know
fine.
if I've got all of it.
All right, we'll move on to old business, America 250 project update.
Book committee has nothing to report.
What was
Okay.
our-
Been stagnant,
So,
sorry.
no, I sent in something on mounds to you.
Yeah.
in Boca. What was the next topic? I don't remember.
Isn't it logging?
Thank you.
Wasn't it? Well, I don't
I
know.
think we already started logging.
Okay.
We did.
Yeah, it's stalled right now as we
We have-
open our museums for the summer
Yeah.
season. Probably get back to it when we close them in the fall.
I do have one thing.
Good way to put it, Russ.
One thing I want to say here, though, remember me saying that it would be, I had read this in the publication that they put out, that to try and get a commission when you're talking to your county board and stuff. So I called, a couple weeks ago, I called our county administrator, and and talked to him about it. It was not on his radar whatsoever. He got really excited about it, and,
French.
so then I called, yeah, that was Jeff French, and then I called Dave Armstrong. He's our representative, but I called him in the capacity of, that he's our economic development coordinator and Dare County tourism director. And so the three of us are meeting on Friday the 21st-ish, somewhere in there. We're meeting, and Jeff, the county administrator, was, like I said, was really excited. He had all these ideas, like he said, oh, we need to make a flag for it, and we'll fly it at all the government buildings, and you could fly it at the museum, and blah, 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 blah. And the county board should pay for 2 or 3 events. Well, then later he changed it to 1 or 2, but events to be held at your museum, and we could do this. We could have a dairy breakfast there. We could have, he had all these, he wanted to do countywide fireworks But I said, you know what, some of the communities might not be real, or the 4th of July, right? Might not be real happy if we're pulling away from their community events. So I don't think we're doing that, but we are meeting to discuss this. And so it was very effective, way more than as an organization that we could have come up with all this on our own. So I would make that call. It would definitely pay off, I think, even money-wise, because we have limited funds and time. And if you can get help from outside sources like that, it definitely is helpful. Were you gonna say something?
If you're interested, I can tell you a brief story about my connection with the national celebration. And it's a huge, huge event. My connection is that my wife's third great grandfather was a Minuteman from Virginia, served in the Revolutionary War, was with Washington at Valley Forge. And other than that, he was pretty small potatoes. However, the National DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution, and the Sons of the American Revolution are really big into this celebration. And what the Daughters of the American Revolution have done is they made it their project for each state in the United States to designate a patriot that they are going to sponsor. 250 of them all together, plus many other communities are doing it. Anyway, my wife's third great grandfather was buried in a cow pasture in southern Kentucky way back in the 1840s. Now, he did nothing special. He wasn't a George Washington. He wasn't a well-known patriot, but he did serve. It took me 14 years to find his grave. And it was in a cow pasture on a 600-acre farm in southern Kentucky. After I placed memorial and information about this person on the final grave site, we got a call from the state of Washington and a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. To make a long story short, they selected this patriot to be their patriot. My wife was elated because when we saw the condition of the cemetery he was in this cow pasture, we said, if we had the money, we would exhume the body or whatever was left of the body and move him to a veteran cemetery. They did it.
Oh, wow.
They had fundraisers in the state of Washington all over the state. And it cost them almost $10,000 and 3 years to do it. Because the biggest resistance came from the National Veterans Organization. They resisted. They didn't want to put them in the Kentucky National Veterans Cemetery because there was no body. Well, they got, finally after dealing with Washington politics, they finally got special dispensation, and he is now in the National Cemetery.
So they didn't actually have to exhume?
They did.
But what would there be to exhume?
Oh, they had a scientific crew that went in there, and they probed, and when they finally dug that grave in the cow pasture, you could see the outline of the casket.
That's amazing.
I know they have like a sonar thing now.
Yes, they had.
Yeah, like our
They
sonar.
even dug up fragments from the original casket. And they moved all of this to the Veteran Cemetery
So-
just south of Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Would it have been just as effective to just put like a monument up for him in the cemetery?
Except there's no access to the cemetery. So
No, I mean in the veteran cemetery.
they didn't want to do that. They wanted his grave in that cemetery. And when it was all said and done, we attended the celebration or the interment ceremony at the Veteran Cemetery. I'm telling you, there was people from 7 different states. Everybody was dressed up in, Revolutionary War garb. They had a gun salute using muskets, and everybody, the Sons of the American Revolution were there in force.
Wow.
It was-
Do you know
it
if
was absolutely
Wisconsin has
remarkable.
picked their patriot yet?
I'm sorry?
Do you know if Wisconsin has picked their patriot yet?
Did we have anybody?
No, they sponsor.
For this whole project?
So there's okay, hang on. Yep. There's a list of 250 patriots,
Yeah.
right? And so all of the 50 states are asked to sponsor one.
At least
So
that.
did Wisconsin sponsor one yet? We don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, so a few years back, probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago, somebody from, must have been the Sons of the American
Mhm.
Revolution, that contacted me about Ansel, I can't know, all of a sudden I'm losing his last name.
Okay.
His first name is Ansel. But anyway, because they were marking and doing a ceremony for the last Civil War vet to die in each county, which in our county was Ansel, and starts with an A, I can't remember, but in Anniston or something like that.
Mhm.
Which we happen to have a vehicle in our old horseless carriage at our museum that at one time he owned, even though that's not whose name is on it because someone else owned it afterwards that donated it. But anyway, so they came up, and there were like 3 of them, I think, that came, and then some of the local veterans organization that came, taps, and did a 21 gun salute, and then some of us from the museum, we had some young kids that were really into the war, especially Civil War, and so they put on some kind of uniforms too and came. But anyway, it was pretty cool, and then they got a marker. Didn't do anything for all the other Civil War vets, but that one that they would do the last one in each county to pass away. And he was, because he went in as a teenager, like 15 or 14 or something, and he just played he did the cue.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why he happened to be the oldest one, or the last one to pass away. So you could get that if you haven't had it already. They would be, they contacted us, but if you know who that is in your county, I know that they would come up and do it. And it was a guy that was on the Wisconsin Council for Local History with me, so even though John is his first name, I can't remember his last, but I could come up with it again if anyone's interested in knowing who that is, and they probably have a list of each county, who they have done already. So if you're interested in that, they can look it up for you.
Sir, what is the name of your wife's ancestor?
Isaac Palmer.
Isaac Palmer.
Isaac Palmer.
Thank you. And you said
And
he
he
was
served
from
as,
Virginia.
I'm
From
sorry?
Virginia.
Yes, he
Yes.
served as a
Very.
man from Virginia.
But he's buried in Kentucky.
He's buried in Kentucky. But
And
back
that's-
then, of course, a lot of migration from the East Coast moved west, and they moved to Kentucky after the war.
And whoever, I think Diane asked about Civil War vets here. My great-great-great-grandfather, and he came from here and was in the Civil War. So there's a lot of work. Just our county, if we have your Bear County, same as us.
We have one in Turtle Lake Cemetery.
There was nobody then listed from Bear County. There were ones that died here
Yeah.
because they moved further north.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that the other counties that are represented here too is probably the same situation, just because there wasn't much settlement this far north of that.
Yeah, you'll see their graves in cemeteries.
Right.
So you'll see a Civil War veteran, but they weren't originally from
Right.
there.
Except
Yeah.
Sarah DeLuca's guy that she did that memoir thing on, he was from Wisconsin.
So if you,
Well, mine was from Wisconsin.
if you're not,
here.
if you're not aware, there's a local author, Sarah
She's
DeLuca.
here somewhere, she'll be here.
Oh,
Today.
Yeah, she said she's gonna be here.
oh, okay, and she wrote a book based on letters home from a Civil War participant. And,
Is she from Blue Lake?
And I made a videotape of that at the Luck Museum, which we haven't put out on the website yet.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
But she does come around.
Yeah, she gets half to sell the books. I just looked on the internet, it says there's 40 Revolutionary War soldiers buried in Wisconsin. 40, and there's a site that goes through each one of them and tells you where they are, so you could look and see if there's any local. I can't take the time to do it now, but.
Very cool.
Well, on page 317 of our good book, I have a list of these Civil War veterans for Amory and Swan Community that I found. I mean, there could be more.
So Revolutionary War makes sense with America 250,
Yeah.
but don't forget about your other veterans too, because we're all part of this great country and we all have a history and a story to tell.
So this is a place where you can enlist the local genealogy society to think about 250th. There's one in Polk County, one in Barron County at least, I know. And ask them to think about finding out relatives, because most of these folks in the society have done their genealogy back to Adam and Eve usually, but anyway, to actually have, look up, do some work on and maybe do a little publicity. I think from our point, my wife's president of the Polk County Genealogical Society, we could probably say, we'll add a category to our county fair entries to say, tracing back your ancestry to the Revolutionary War and see if anybody comes out of that. Personally, my great-great-grandpa was in the Civil War, and he's down at Harlan Cemetery here in Barron, and his, great-great-great-grandfather and that were in the Revolutionary War too. Because I'm in the Genealogy Society, I looked that all up.
So Charles he's an archivist at the museum, but he also does research for the Genealogical Society because he's very active in that too.
Is that, what's his last name?
He's right here, Charles Knapp.
I was gonna say, Gloria Dabersfeld or something like that is the contact one for the Barron County group.
She doesn't do research though.
No, but she helps us figure out how we could do it.
Yeah. She would either probably ask Charles or Gloria would probably ask.
Oh.
What's her first name? What's her? Anyway, there's another gal that does research. Okay, we got sidetracked.
Okay, so I think we're at ideas for joint events, group tours to different communities, bus tours, gem grants, sponsors, and partnerships.
I'm sorry, can we go back to the book? For the book, at the last meeting, you had all the categories and how each museum was going to maybe, focus on those. One of the things I think would be helpful with the book, if you could work with your school and maybe propose it to your English teacher and maybe have some students do some writing for the book and maybe stories, not just the facts, but stories. So if they could find a primary document of someone who used the railroad in your county and incorporate that in the book too, make more of the human element as well as the factual element. It's just an idea to throw out there, and when I give you some information later about how to get kids involved, you can always contact me and I can connect you with some English teachers that I know and we can elaborate on a little bit. Because that book, as you know, writing was a big process, and you're going to need help.
Yeah.
You're going to need help, especially if you want it done for 2026. You need some help.
So Russ is the one doing all the work.
So actually, we're doing very much, but we had slanted this to say it's going to be more of an advertisement for
Yes.
your own historical society or museum. And so when we talk about logging, for instance, or railroads, we're going to say, what can you find in my area and or in my museum that might be of interest to a railroad? Is that, they call them fiends? Railroad fiends? Or fans, maybe. Yeah. But anyway,
You
so
can always
that
do
was, that, what?
You can do like a vignette every now and then, or you can get kids involved, but it's not like.
Oh, yeah, sure.
After, then
Yeah.
you're not so focused on trying to herd cats and get all that together. So
Our,
it's
our
really
problem,
exciting.
problem was that nobody's volunteered hardly. Very few things come in, so we thought if you wanted to just, maybe we could get more participation if you were allowed to blow your horn as an advertisement, sort of, so that when the people look at the book, they can say, ooh, go here and see this.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's,
Like I just blew my own.
All right, moving on to ideas for joint events, group tours, bus tours, gem grant sponsors.
yeah, I'll remind you again, the Red Schoolhouse, for those of you who are in Polk County or if you're even nearby, that's a joint effort, putting the information out about your museum. And we also ask for people, volunteers from each historical society, to spend a, 4-hour shift covering the museum. We give you free fare tickets. So for instance, William has got Thursday night from, I don't know, whatever it's,
5 to 7.
9.
5 to 9.
5 to 9, and we're hoping that they'll have some Frederick information at the museum too.
So this is under the heading though of America 250, remember we were
Oh,
talking
joint
about?
event, oh, sorry.
Joint event.
So obviously, we'll segue into saying, of course, at the schoolhouse on America 250, we'll have
What
that
is
as
the
our
fair?
theme.
Does the fair have any idea of what they're doing for that? Like, is
They
it-
don't know anything about it yet. Somebody has to bring that
They
up.
need a county commission to work on that.
Well, it's right now, people aren't aware of it, and so
I agree.
it's part of our job to go out and talk to these organizations and actually enlist them. But that means we have to think of what we might want to do with them, or give them some ideas, or maybe, like you said, maybe they'll come up with the ideas.
Okay, passport program, any updates?
Basically, just if anybody has any updates, just give them to me and I'll get it updated on the passport.
She put it out so there for everybody, so if you're participating and wanna print them off and
I couldn't find it.
We,
can
Put it
you
like this.
send it out again?
Send it to me. They'll probably be fine later, I don't know why I couldn't.
digitization projects.
Could Russ pass
So
out that
that's the letter.
Yeah, we had talked in December about sending a letter to the Wisconsin Historical Society saying that was a high priority. And I have a sample there, which I was looking for the names of organizations that we could put at the bottom that were supported, and of course some proofing or whatever idea about the letter itself. So if you have any, you can send that to me if you want
So,
to.
I will go back and reread Greg Hogan's emails and forward that to you as well, because I think that would be a lot of help towards getting this done. And they have grant money to do it, and students, so they got the labor and the money taken care of.
At Eau Claire,
Yeah,
yeah.
yep. And so what he had sent was he wanted everybody to fill out a survey, but I don't know who all did. I mean, I forwarded it, and I don't know what happened, but.
I don't remember
I
seeing
don't
this.
remember either.
I will go back and look, but you know,
Is that the one you and I filled out?
yes,
Okay.
yep. But I would, I think your letter was well written, and if you want to send it to the state, I mean, I would be, are we supposed to be approving?
Well, I guess we had agreed to do this and said that was in, but then I said, well, I'll do a draft and then we can, and I didn't think about it last time to bring along. But, so if we could make a motion to say, Russ, send it.
I would entertain that motion.
I move that Russ send it.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion on the table and a second for Russ to send the letter that he drafted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, Grants, can the consortium apply for grants and grant writing training session?
There was a grant writing session online through the Wisconsin Museum Consortium a few months back, because I attended one.
And
I don't know if that's a great, I think it's a great idea.
I think it might be available to view still if you want to go back to it.
It was good.
Could somebody send, do you have that information? That seminar?
Wisconsin Historical Society though.
Oh, so it wasn't sent out, it was something that you have to go, okay.
Yeah, and I think there's a link to it on
Okay.
their site. And it was good, it was good.
Let's check it out.
I think that what we talked about last time was, we're not a 501c3, so that puts some limitations on what we could get. However, that we could do it through one of our own organizations, as the Genealogy Society of Polk County isn't, so we use the Luck Museum, where our headquarters are, as the, what do you call it, the final, administrative thing, and then give them a cut of everything.
Not all grants require that. Remember when Julie Fox was here, the GEM grant, she said, my understanding was that we could apply for it without being a 501c3.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the particular grant too.
Yeah, however, I think we would have to have a structure that said, here's the president and vice president and
Yes.
board and a few things like that, so that they know their money is going to be administered.
Not to an individual, you mean?
Yeah.
But Russ, is that legal because
You can have an organization without being registered, it just, the
No, I
only
mean,
reason
but
to be a
doing-
501c is
using
your tax.
your 501 and getting a grant and giving it to other people, we have looked at that through the library and it says right in, wait a minute. I was pretty sure it said we couldn't do it.
Well,
We could, or like one group could apply and you can have it as listed as a partnership,
Right.
specifically for the GEM grant in particular, is that as long as you have like listed partners.
There's some that actually will say that in it, that you can partner with other, like some of them, we partner with a Native American band because they're eligible, and then it says, so that it depends on each one. So maybe the one you were looking at, you couldn't do that. Julie thought that as a group, we could do it for the GEM grant. I've been on somewhere where we've been able to list other organizations.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm thinking about the raffles. You cannot do a raffle with your raffle license for another person, for another group.
That is correct.
I think that's what I'm thinking. I'm confused, okay.
You can do that too, because
You can.
our historical society has a subgroup that's the River Road Ramble Royalty, who have floats and all that, and they're a separate organization, not 501c3, but they use our raffle license. And before us, they used the local American Legion one, as long as they gave, it was through them, but the money went to the organization. So I mean, there are ways around it. And I don't even know if you have to have a 501c3 to get a raffle license anyway, because churches have them, and they're not always, I'm not sure.
And just to clear up with what we do with the Polk County Genealogy Society, the Luck Museum is the administrator of the grant funds that they have received. So we accepted the grant funds, put them in an account, and each year at a particular, July 1st, I guess it is, we give them X number of dollars of that grant for their funding.
Well, it was sort of a joint grant,
Yeah.
because we fund a working room that's headquartered to the Genealogy Society, and also working room for the museum.
So I know some of the grants we get, we have to have two names on it. One is who is responsible to be, like this doesn't get, it's supposed to be who's that, and usually that's my name. And then our treasurer's name goes in as the fiscal agent. So anyway, does anyone know about any grants that would apply for us? Do we want to, should we be thinking about the America 250, getting a GEM grant? We talked about a bus tour. If we know what events we're doing, should we be looking into a GEM grant for America 250 that we could be going, taking them to different?
I think we need to decide on an event, and then for sure commit to that, because largely a lot of the money would come, I mean, obviously it's joint effort, like marketing, so most of the money would go towards marketing, so.
And it's a reimbursement on the DEM grant.
Yeah.
It's not, you never really get money in your pocket. It's what you spend on marketing, you get that money back. So it would have to, like if we did a bus tour like we talked about, it would have to, bring in enough money to cover all the expenses. And I don't know if you guys think you want to make money off it. To me, it would be just enough to get the people there. I would be happy with that.
That would be good.
I don't think we should take a bite off too, when we can choose.
Well, this would be for America 250, so
Right,
we'd
well,
have
even
2
that,
years.
even that, I mean, think about how much planning it takes for each, how much planning it takes for each event.
But if you're each planning your events now for your own organization, or maybe it's just to bring them there, maybe there isn't any major programming for it, but it's getting them to your museums to reconnect with the history of the area. And we would be writing it in the winter of 2025 for 2026. That would be what we would, if there's interest. If there's not interest, we won't.
Oh, I think it's a great idea.
But explain how it would work. You're gonna bus people from museum to museum, or?
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that, or it could be like, yeah, like Tammy was saying, if you guys had an event planned at Turtle Lake on, you know, a specific event, or at a specific weekend in 2026, you could have funding for this for marketing to basically get people interested in coming. So it would
Okay.
basically give you the funds to kind of more broadly market it, instead of like, you know, what a lot of the times now we do is just sort of, you know, Facebooks and whatever you could basically print off on a printer, but this might be like more widely
Yeah,
marketed.
okay.
We would have to go back and read the qualifications
Yeah.
of the DEM grant, because I do remember that if we did it one way, she said it wouldn't work, it didn't fit the criteria.
They have very
Another
specific
way-
criteria, and I think it's if it's a one-off event, and it's not like the first of its kind or something like that, then I think it's okay, or something like that. I remember there's like a very specific category that we can probably slot in there and use it for.
I think the funding comes second, as first you have to have a project that you want to fund.
Yeah.
And so unless we have something that we can put forward, for instance, if we said, okay, we need funding for the book that we're putting together, then that's a concrete thing that we can ask for, you know. So I don't know.
Well, that's what we're saying, is that we would need to know.
Yeah, but does anybody have actually any reason? 'Cause I don't worry about the funding until I have some interest in doing something. Then I
Well-
try to go get the funding, because then you know who to ask.
Right, but we had a very basic general in that we all said that our organizations were interested in doing an event for America 250. We were just trying to figure out how to put it all together so that there was some connection between them, and hopefully be able to use some different dates, so we didn't all have to do it at the same date, so we could attend each other's. So we don't know specifics, but the conversation has to start somewhere.
Isn't there a group that's working on the 250 project?
Well, yeah,
That
that
we're
would be.
doing it, we're a subset of it, we're doing the book only, not the 250
Well,
project.
when that committee was started, it was originally supposed to be America 250.
Oh.
And then from there, the book part became part of it. And then we just got focused on the book, and we kind of let the rest of it all go. But there was a committee, and we gave you the initial information. That was Larry and you and I.
And Russ.
No, I only
He
came in on the book
book
end.
part of it.
I'm just a
So
book end.
we originally presented you guys with like that, with some ideas and that booklet, and we have not met, that group has not met in quite some time. I think there was one more person, I have notes on it somewhere.
So maybe it's time to refocus, have that group meet again, and if there's anybody else interested, we can focus, what are your goals for that committee?
Was just primarily, it was to come up with ideas for this group so that everybody was aware of it, and if they wanted to pick events, or, you know, we kind of had a theme that we came up with, which I don't even remember.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right, what was our theme?
It was either United We Stand,
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah,
it's
it is.
We the
both.
people.
I think it was We the People.
I think it's We the
That's right,
People.
yeah.
I think it was We the People. 'cause
I think that's
remember-
why I think that's why we led into the book, because we figured that was
Yeah.
a way to get everybody.
Because I know at that time I said, I think what we're going to do as an organization was to have flags of all the different countries all put around in a circle and then have, for one event, and then have a table where people that represent those different groups could have cultural, material culture items on their table.
Food.
And then to have a huge birthday party with
Yeah.
a big, either a really big cake or cupcake, but the big cake would be kind of hard to
So,
do.
Tammy, are you kind of the point of contact for that group?
I don't know, I could be. I'm in the
What
group.
I'm saying is, let's have a meeting and refocus the group.
Okay,
Find all of our
So-
old notes that we took.
I have them somewhere, but
I do too.
who is interested in, if we were gonna do that again, I'll include everybody that's already in the group, but who else would be interested?
Yes, get her on there, she's got so many ideas.
Okay, so we have Sarah and Brenna, and I think Diane, I'm guessing.
Do you want to add me?
Yep,
And Jim Ivy?
Yep.
And Diana
but
Higgins?
hang on. I said Diane already. Diane.
And I think the first thing would be to really understand what the 250 project is. 'Cause right-
Okay, so from before I had Larry,
Larry would want to be in it too.
Yeah.
I know he's not here, but Larry would.
and I'm trying to think of his last name.
Smetek.
Okay, and Dave and myself, and I can't remember where you wanted.
Sort of. Sort of dragged in because we do all this stuff, so.
Okay, and now I have Diana
Who's the
and
person
Rochelle.
from Birchwood? What's her name? I just blanked. Pat was on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And Jim Ivy?
I put Jim, I don't have Jim's contact information yet.
We'll get it to you.
Pat Keller. Okay. Was there anyone I missed? No, I have, okay, the ones I had said, and then Sarah, Brenna, Diana, Jim Ivy, Rochelle, and Pat Keller. Well, Pat Keller was the original. Larry. Anyone else? Okay. And then I'll put Diane in parentheses.
So the thing was, We the People, and you were looking at kind of how all of these different people came
Melted
together. Okay, so could it be We the People, United We Stand? Could that be our?
And I think I was the one actually, I felt, in this, I'm just taking it back to the original meeting when we were up Grantsburg. When we were in Grantsburg, and I had explained why I personally felt very strong with We the People, because I'm an immigrant. And I had mentioned, whoever was sitting at my table, I said that, well, when we come here, when they came here, we came as We the People. It's,
Yeah.
and we left.
So we'd been meeting, we'd met a few times by that time and had presented to you, and that's when you guys picked We the People. I mean, United We Stand was a pretty strong contender, if I remember correctly.
Both.
Well,
Because they kind of go together, don't they?
Yeah.
We the
Yeah.
People, United We Stand.
Well, and when, out of the Declaration comes the Constitution later, right? And when they originally wrote the Constitution, it was gonna be We the States in order to create a more perfect union. But Madison changed it. He said, no, it's We the People in order, he said, we're not an alliance of states only, we're the people together. So I think that having both in the title would be totally fine. I mean, and I know that's nitty gritty picky, but, you know, We the People, United We Stand.
And I think once this group gets back together,
Yeah.
and that's when we make that decision,
Yeah.
and then put it out to them.
Well, and yeah, when the people who are in the committee now for the American 250, you know, they can decide that.
Yeah.
And then bring it back to everybody else and say, you know, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I think we just need to get together, refocus, set our goals, and move forward.
Because the book and the 250 celebration are kind of two separate entities.
Yeah, the book is a part of it.
So, yeah, so, I don't know, from what I'm hearing from everybody though, that right now this is maybe not the world's best time for us
Right.
to be spending a lot of time in meetings, but we know we need to get
focused on it because it's gonna come and go before you know it.
Absolutely.
But is it okay if we wait and meet in September?
Fine, absolutely.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we can be looking things up and getting ideas and go online and see what.
Well, why don't you try and do it, you could try if you want, since now you're the point person, you could try and maybe set up a meeting before our September 10th, like
Before our
this
next
meeting, you know? Since it's still September, maybe like that week
Yeah.
right before it, like after Labor Day or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know when everybody officially like closes, but
that weekend after Labor Day, we have a really big event, it's a 3-day event.
of course.
Yeah.
Monday, September 9th, just.
That's Labor, oh, the weekend,
You're
yeah.
celebrating David's birthday? Oh, how nice
Is
of
that
you.
September 9th?
Yeah.
We can meet on Dave's birthday.
Perfect.
And let's see,
I think
no,
it's
the 10th is the next meeting and we go to the dentist, we have to
Yeah,
change.
but the ninth, is the ninth Monday?
Yeah, that'd be.
Oh, okay, yeah, I have to do it.
So it'd be better
Talk
if we
at
could
the
squeeze it
rock
in.
club.
If you can, but if not.
Maybe even Tuesday, what's the Tuesday before that? That's
Third.
Third.
Yeah.
Tuesday, September 3rd.
We can tentatively do.
I like the idea that the different museums stagger their dates of when they do their celebrations, so we can go to each other's, and they're not always, I like that.
I do too, but then I'm not sure if that would mean we can't do the gem grant, because I'm trying to remember what Julie told us, and I thought it sounded like one of the things that they would support was if we did a bus tour, because that was a specific thing on a specific date. So but then that's why I thought maybe just even visiting the museums and maybe instead of doing a big public thing, it could just be for whoever was signed up for this bus tour. I mean, we'll just have to check into it and look, because right now I guess we can speculate all we want, but we're kind of wasting
I
time.
still have that information.
So-
printed off.
so,
From Julie.
Well, just from the Gem Grant, like website itself, yeah.
I have given up mostly thinking for myself, so I asked Gemini, the artificial intelligence, what a Wisconsin Local Historical Society might do to celebrate America 250, and they suggest something that actually has been done. A lady at Frederick used to go around dressed as Betsy Ross and give talks on what, I don't remember exactly, it was like what Betsy Ross did in the thing.
She made the flag.
Yeah, so it's sort of like if we found somebody who liked this stuff and we could share around with talks in our neighborhood to kind of reenact a person
That would be
from that.
fun.
'Cause that was
Each
quite
organization
yeah,
had a reenactment.
she actually did it at schools too, as part of it. Another thing they said is partner with the schools to do something, and an example of that is at the fair, at the county fair schoolhouse this year, we'll have like 5 posters from a local school where kids made posters on something of interest in local history, or history in general. This wasn't local history, but a school project, and so you could sort of sponsor a school class, pick a person or event or something at the founding of our country and make a poster and incorporate it as part of their classroom activities, and then just take those to our museums and that. And then it says, put on a play reenacting some big event or things like that. My own view as I think about this is we should probably enlist as many different organizations as we're connected with, like the American Legion, I don't know about the Rock Club, we could probably figure out something, but
Lions Clubs.
yeah, the Lions Club,
Railroad.
I'm in a writers group, and we could certainly aim our writing towards something like that. Fair exhibits, we could add some categories for America 250, because that's open for art or whatever. I like the idea of us being the person who reaches out to all these other organizations and pushes them, like you were talking about, the county, that pushing or suggests to them that they take some role in this America 250, then we don't have to do it all ourselves.
Yeah.
We had a similar kind of situation in where I taught, and one of the guys in our English department wrote a grant, and he decided to focus on the Red Cedar River. And so somehow, I don't know what kind of a grouping he was submitting it to, but the grant got okayed, and then Madison sent us this team of, 4 people. They were around there for just about a week. And they got the science kids and they got a lot of people involved and it worked out. And they ended up having a play, something about the Red Cedar River at the Mabel Tainer, and I remember some of those songs yet that those kids sang, and it was just really put together quick and fast, but it was done well.
How long ago was that?
Oh, gosh.
Last century, right?
Yeah.
Back in the 1900s. I was just wondering if it's still around and if we could revive that.
Well, I think that the museum in Wakanda Park is a direct result of the Rasbeck family funded that museum, and I think it's a direct result of that whole play and the culmination of the arts, and it was well done. But I mean, but I don't know if you can count on schools anymore, because schools get pressures from everybody saying, well, we don't have time for that. We've got to finish our curriculum. We've got to do this and do that. So that's a darndest deal, because, if it's schools, if you're going to get one involved, you should really try to get all of them involved. And you've got great ideas here today.
Yeah.
And I just...
So maybe we should do a Zoom meeting before September 3rd.
Yeah.
Well, our problem, I think, at one time I was a school teacher too, is if you're in the system, it's different than if you're outside of it. If you're outside, you sort of feel intimidated about going in and telling them something because you don't really know how things work. So our ideal situation is recruit some real, live, active teachers to help us out.
We have a huge number of retired.
Yeah, I know.
You guys are stealing my thunder. Stealing my thunder. I haven't made my stuff yet.
Okay, we have 35 minutes left.
Yes.
And we have 2 presentations in that time. And so maybe we need to move on. And maybe when we do this Zoom, which we can do sooner, maybe we should send it to everybody and whoever wants to, at least the initial one. Because there's so many good ideas, and I hate to think we're not listening to everybody's ideas, but time is a factor here.
Just remember at the last meeting, the guy said, if you can line up some of your stuff to meet, whatever those things are that teachers have to meet.
She's got that too.
Yeah, so, you can tell us that again? Good.
Okay.
Okay, so formalize Northwest Wisconsin Museum Consortium. We did not get far.
See, I thought we decided we were not going to.
I thought so too.
I didn't remember.
Okay.
I wasn't
Okay.
sure.
Okay, perfect. Moving on. Any other old business?
Can I make one recommendation? I do think we need a point of contact when we
So-
have questions.
But one other thing, yeah, that makes sense. But I know I'm really bad at dropping the ball because I am very, very busy, so I do not want it to be me. But also, if we also voted at our last meeting that we were going to join the Heritage Council, and they are formalized in this, and we can still meet as our group here.
Okay.
So we can maybe use that as our umbrella.
So, I mean, just throwing out the point of contact thing. So I attempted because I didn't get Lori's email address until Tammy emailed it to me, hence why Lori didn't realize that.
Right, so
everything
that's
shipped
my
around.
concern too, because
Right.
on April 25th, I sent an email, I
Yes,
believe, to
to Tammy.
Sent it to
you,
me, and
saying that, yep, we can do it here.
Yeah,
And then I
so
heard-
just
then
never, yeah, which is totally fine.
So I agree, we need a point of contact.
So I will tentatively volunteer for that, only because, so way back last year when I started at the museum in April, somebody,
Oh my gosh, it's been a year.
somebody sent me a list and they were like, here's the contacts for everybody that's in the museum consortium. And I was like, okay, I have, which is, I'm going to downsize it to literally 1 or 2 from each organization, and that is it. So then it will be on whoever that person is to forward it to anybody else that they are interested in. Like, I'm
So-
not.
Yeah, and you should mention it.
And I will, yeah,
get
for sure.
why you think that, but I also know that sometimes the main person that we think is involved in some organization, I'll take Shitek for an example. Robin lost interest. So therefore, you know, it's like the whole organization is out. There were a lot of people. We had like
I was gonna
6
ask you
people
what
coming
happened to
from
Robin,
Shitek.
because she hadn't been to the last few meetings.
Yeah, well,
and
she's very, very busy and she.
Well, and I
she
try to
just
pull
put it
email
out.
addresses from like the actual like place's website, right? Like, so our, you know, our email address is technically just the director email, so it all comes through me, or it's the info one from our website, so it'll still come to me. You know, if there's like a formal email address that people can list, that would make it easier instead of having personal email addresses that are then, you know, yeah, somebody isn't interested anymore or whatever. So I will send an email to the list that I have. Laura, you're on the list now. And I will just say, you know, please, 1 to 2 people per organization. List the organization name, because half the time on that list, I have no idea who it's associated with. Like, there's just a random email address and I don't know who it's actually associated with. And then just, I'll also just say like 1 to 2 people, please use an official email address if, you know, at all possible, otherwise.
Well,
Yeah.
most of the museums are 501c3, so they've got a board of directors.
Yeah.
So whoever that contact is for that museum should be on email list.
See, now nobody from our board of directors come, well, occasionally Brenda does, but.
You're technically the director, so
Exactly.
so-
I'm the one that comes to
You know,
see.
but I'm saying, at least they should get the word out, if they get the email with information, it should go to the person.
Oh, no, I agree with you, I agree with you.
Okay, so anyway, that's, Brent is now our contact person, right?
Yep.
Everyone's good with that?
And you said we are part of the, we voted to become part of the Northern Wisconsin Heritage Council?
We did, and
Okay.
I brought something on that. Afterwards, I wish, saw my other piece of paper that I'd written on, I wish I had included this. But what I did put on here is the, name of the the name of this Northern Wisconsin Heritage Council, the website, and the Clio project as a reminder what this is about, and the contact information, the 2 people that came and talked to us, Karen Saylor and Dave Over. We paid for the consortium to be part of this. It's $100 a year, and they said the first year we could do it that way. Our organization also paid it separately because I really want this to be successful and work. And as we were meeting today, I'm like, okay, this thing that Russ gave us with the map with all the little dots, it's a little big, so it might need to be made into a number of tours, but these are tours. We're doing one just in our museum. We're, I don't know, not even halfway. We're going from building to building and writing information about it. And if you have trouble doing this, they've paid somebody now to do this for us, so if you can get them the information, they can put it up there for you if you have trouble with that.
Is that the login info?
Yeah, and it's going around somewhere. I had a thing coming up.
Hey, Russ,
And so, this is going to be, I mean, we've talked for, how long have we been meeting? We have talked this whole time about how we could do this exact thing. So now they kind of handed it to us on a silver platter. They went through all these steps. I really, really hope that we can take advantage of it. So I thought of it as Russ was talking about this, and then I thought of it as some of the rest of you were talking about some different things too. I should have wrote them down because I was thinking, oh, that's a tour, that's a tour. You were talking about the Red Cedar River, the different points along the Red Cedar River. What a great tour. I mean, it doesn't have to be a super, super formal thing. We have a guy that was he was the land surveyor in Barron County, and when he retired, he took an old land surveyor from the first part of the century. He went back and looked at his works. He had done logging camps, he had done burial mounds, and he had done trading posts. And he redid all this stuff, and I'm thinking, oh, there's some more tours. There's 3 tours right there. The more of that stuff we can get up, the more it's gonna help us, because we're the source for it. It's gonna list your museum as the source, and they're gonna wanna come to your museum and see what else do you have on this? This is pretty interesting. This is maybe where our tour starts, as we go to the museum and then we go drive around to these places.
You know, on a map like that, the Google map, you can make layers or you can make colors. So if I wanted to do just things that were interested for railroad people, I could make those all yellow or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my update on this. So now you have the contact information. I think either Karen or Jim would be good to talk to. And they would be able to give us the information on the person that would be putting it on the website if you can do it yourselves. We had already started one, and so a gal at the museum, Izzy Bennett, has been working more on, I've been working with her on it some, but she's the art administrator, so then she just approves it. I write my stuff and send it to her, and she approves it. So it'll, I don't know, hopefully soon it will be ready to go up. But we are members, it's paid, please use it.
This group has a website, email address, a YouTube channel, what else can you get? I can't remember.
Facebook page.
Yeah, Facebook page, and that, we aren't putting anything much on it, but they're all available.
Here's the part that I forgot to put on this. What they want from us, if we're sending it for them to put in, they need the name of the organization, the contact info for that person, and for the organization. That includes email, phone number, and mailing address. In fact, if you put, I could write that down on this. If you guys put that on here, we could give them that right now. So while we're going through the rest of the meeting, I'll write the things on here that we need to have. And if you know that for your organization, you can put it on here now, and we'll give that to them. Okay.
All right, any other old business? All right, moving on to new business, museum updates, share how museums are doing this year. I think we kind of did that at the
We did.
beginning. So Amory Historical Society school field trips? Is that Amory or is that?
It's something that we're gonna.
It's New Richmond.
Okay, it was.
It was New Richmond.
Okay, so I asked the gals to come, but when I saw that, I'm like, oh, they must not be doing it. So I can share a little bit about how we do it here. So we have volunteers that come and share each building. So we are in the schoolhouse. We don't do the church. We're in the history shed. We're in the schoolhouse. We're in the U-Bat store. We're in the blacksmith shop. We're in the log cabin and the house. Everybody starts here with a little synopsis, and basically it talks about the cyclone, 125 years tomorrow. And so then they split up into groups, and each building has a person in them that, like, they dress the period, they, tell a little bit about, like, if you're in the schoolhouse, for instance, I usually take the schoolhouse, I'm the teacher. So the first thing I tell them when they're ready to enter, I ring the bell and ask them if they're ready. If any of them has to go to the bathroom, they need to use the outhouse before. So you really try to set the mood for what it was like back then.
Do you have an outhouse that they can use?
We do. We have an outhouse, and we do show them the outhouse, but we don't use the outhouse. The kids actually think it's pretty gross, and when I told them about the chamber pot, that was even worse. So this year we had about 2,000 kids that participated, and I think part of the reason that I think that's quite successful is we have such great connections with the schools here, with the teachers here. So this year, somehow, through the Octagon House, the Hudson schools have decided to participate. So it was only 4th grade, big year with Wisconsin history. So the 4th graders came up here and did the school tour. So we don't charge for New Richmond, and if they're out of the district, we charge $1 a student. And because I'm involved with the Clear Lake Museum, and I also teacher sub at Clear Lake, now that I'm retired, Clear Lake is coming next year. So it's kind of like word of mouth to get people involved. And it's very successful. Our biggest challenge is volunteers as well. So we advertise this meeting where we're gonna feed you, you're gonna come, learn all about it, and we have a great turnout for that meeting. But then, when it comes to, all right, here's the dates we need you, then you lose people. But it's a great opportunity for them to come and learn.
How many days of field trips, how many kids per day?
So we try to limit it to a morning and an afternoon.
They have to pick
and-
one or the other, you mean?
Yes. So they'll be here for like an hour and a half. We try to do 15 minutes in each building.
Oh.
So there are times when we do, and we try to do it on just like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We accommodate people. We've done a couple Fridays as well. But yeah, so we usually do at least, when we do them, we do a morning and an afternoon. There are a couple times when we've had to do 2 in the morning. But yeah, it's a great effort. It's great for the kids.
So we do about the same number, but we don't limit how long they're there, because some of them drive quite a ways.
Oh,
So that's what I was just trying to figure out is, that there's not a limit to how many at a time.
You do, I guess, maybe, because I'm trying not to interject.
no, you're fine.
I ran the tours here for years, but you still do, for instance, groups of, and I'm gonna say, let's just say, grade 4 from.
Grade 4 from one of the schools.
Right, with
Yep.
80 students, how does that work? Is that the 15 minutes rotation?
So let's say we had, yes, that would be the 15-minute rotation. The groups are broken. We don't like to have more than 12 to 15 in the group. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So, yeah,
Tammy, how many do we have in our groups?
8.
Oh, so you even have less.
Yeah, but we like less than that, but some things can take 2 groups depending on where they're at, but we have more spots.
I personally would like more than the 20 minutes because it's a lot to cover. And kids like, they have a lot of questions, because this is all so foreign to them. But right now, that's what we do 20 minutes just because lack of volunteers and.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So with ours at the museum, we do 3 sections essentially. So because we have a group that goes down to the schoolhouse because that's exterior to the museum. And then we have another group that comes into the museum, but they're in like one specific room, which is our Native American room, because we have a representative from the tribe who comes and does a presentation. And then we have the rest of them that are kind of going on each of the 3 floors of the actual building itself. And so ours are, they're about 30 minutes or so, especially for the schoolhouse, because they get like a really fun like overview and they get to kind of participate in some of that stuff. And the same goes to our tribal representative tends to get long-winded, so 30 minutes is probably a pretty good one. But then the shortcomings tend to be once they actually get to the rest of the museum, because then they're limited to 12 minutes per floor, and we're trying to kind of like scan them through each of the rooms on each of the floors. But ours tends to be like, we know at least what they're most interested in, so we kind of tend to hit those rooms, and so it sounds like you guys kind of have the same thing, where you know like what they really want to see.
Right.
So.
And I, along with what Brenna's saying, is I think 4th grade is a wonderful age because I don't think I've ever asked those kids a question without somebody answering. I mean, usually a lot of answers, so they're very good participants.
So we don't do just 4th grade. We just have a program. Hudson was 4th graders, and we have a separate program for 4th graders just because I don't know if they still do that, but that's supposed to be the big Wisconsin history year. So we have a little bit different program for that. We go a little bit more in depth. But we do 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade as well. So.
Does that change a lot when you get, especially like 1st graders? Like, is it simplified, like more so when you kind of?
It is a little bit more simplified. I think like when I'm at the school, I just talk a little bit different about different things.
Sure.
About this is what a library is or what a cafeteria is, things that they can relate to more.
Okay.
So I don't know how everybody else does it, but that's just how I.
We haven't had anything lower than 4th grade.
Oh.
So I've had, I've gone through middle school, but I haven't had anybody lower than that, so I was curious if you had, like how things shifted, if I did.
But they still,
shifted.
I think sometimes that those 1st and 2nd graders have more questions than some of those 4th graders.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
They're like sponges, and they're not afraid to ask, where at 4th grade, they're getting that a little bit more awkward, but it's a great program. And one of the things that I always say is, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? So that's why I think it's important to, share the history, so. All right, Sarah Pica, getting youth involved.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a couple handouts. Well, I can't remember everything myself, so.
The story just very locked in the back.
And I've already added things to this, I'm just going to do you all today.
This is the one.
Yeah, I was here one time, and then I had grandchildren at Hudson, and so I came up and I don't know what grade they were in, but there was different grades, of course. So I was here twice, and I thought you guys did a wonderful job with it.
Yeah, I love doing it.
Second handout I'm giving you are the Wisconsin State History Standards. From the Department of Public Instruction. Couldn't even remember what they were called, standards. And these are the different ones, of course, it's geography and economics. And I did put the websites on the first handout in case you want to look up more information. So at our last meeting, I mentioned that teachers are overwhelmed and they could use your help. So, there's a lot that teachers are expected to cover in Wisconsin history. On the standards, on the right, it says the eras and themes, and this is 4th through 12th grade. And so as you can see, a lot of these are covered in the museums, right? So prehistory, explorers, traders, settlers, and so on. You can read that for yourself. And then on the back, they have what they're expected to learn about U.S. history and then world history. So there's a lot involved just in content. And these are just the content standards. These aren't even the performance standards. Like, are they able to read maps? Are they able to read primary documents? Those aren't even included. So when you try to get teachers and schools involved, oftentimes it's not that the passion isn't there, it's the time isn't there. And so if the historical societies and the museums can pick up some of that load, wow, that'd be very, very helpful. So that's what that document is about. And then the other one, some of these things have happened, and some of them were attempts and failed, and some of them are still ideas in progress. So we want to get more youth to participate. So when you look around the room here, obviously we're not going to be here forever. So who's going to take this stuff on when we're no longer doing it? And we need to get youth captivated early. The earlier we get them, the better. Okay? And so these are just some ideas. If you look on the top right corner, as you can tell, the students in all the pictures are wearing masks. So some of these pictures are older, COVID time. So Tammy brought in the county seat to the school. And I took my classes in there. And she gave a presentation. She talked about the artifacts. She had some slides up on the screen. She had students come up and look at it, and she told the story of the county seat, the actual artifact. So when we first started doing this, we called it Tuesdays with Tammy. And we would tell the students, okay, Tammy's coming to the museum. And then, time gets away from us, and COVID and all that kind of stuff. But that was a fun one. And then the picture, the top one on the bottom, you can see the state flag behind it. Tammy brought in a Christmas tree and Christmas ornaments from the time period. And the students decorated a Christmas tree. So just little things like that, and that's stuff that they remember. And they, of course, love to have their picture taken. So, right? Is this going to be in the
your book? Is this, you know, and then they snap it to each other, whatever. And then the bottom right is kind of the same. She brought in some clothing, and students were able to look at the clothing and the shoes, and I think she had like you know, like a brush and comb set, just all kinds of stuff that they could actually look at and kind of touch, and that was really cool. They love that kind of stuff. And once again, I got to have their pictures taken. And then we did kind of a COVID time capsule. And on the upper right, you can see they're holding up, they each got a folder, and they had requirements. So they had to have so many internet articles, they had to have so many pictures, they had to have documents. So for example, they had printed off like the letter from the governor and that kind of stuff. So they had a list of stuff they had to have in their book, but they also had to write about how COVID affected them personally, how it affected school. And so when I put my book together, how did it affect me as a teacher? And I wrote that down, right? And so on the bottom left, you can see there's some statistics and facts that they printed off the internet, and then some photographs. But I know they're kind of small, but on the left, one of the students put that for volleyball, they had to wear masks. And you can see in the pictures, you know, they're sitting on the bench and they're wearing masks. They're playing with masks on. And they got to keep those, and then we gave some to Tammy at the museum. And then also in the time capsule, we put a couple different masks. We put a roll of toilet paper, because remember the toilet paper frenzy. At school, we had they had rope that was measured 6 feet. So when we spread the desks out, we had a measurement, so that was in there. And then we gave that to Tammy, and then she's going to decide, you know, what the museum's going to do with that. So little hands-on projects like that can be helpful. And I gave you my contact information, so if there's something that, you know, you want students to do, I will make a checklist. You know, so if you're going to have them make a time capsule, I'll help you put a checklist together, what things you have in there. So I love doing that. So my contact information is on there. So that's kind of collaborating with schools as far as bringing in somebody from the society to help out and get students engaged. And then the other thing about that is when they know that's going to the museum, they tend to put more pride into it. You know, because it's like, hey, down the road, you know, 50 years from now, somebody's going to look back and they're going to want to know what it was like to be a student, you know, during this time.
Can I interject something really quick? So I think, you know, they have class, a lot of schools have a class like where they're checking out careers. Cameron almost every year has somebody invite me to come to be their career person to talk about a history career. And I think, and no other school ever has. None of the other schools in our area. And I think it's because Sarah had taken the time to invite me into the school to do these things. I never bothered to approach any schools. Sarah just came to a board meeting a number of years back and said, hey, I'm interested in being involved, and then has specifically said, could you come to my class and do this? So I think the difference is, when those kids hear the stories, I think it all is keyed on the stories. That's what kids love about history, because they're gonna think, I don't like history, because they don't like the class, but if they're hearing the stories, all of a sudden they love history. So thank you, Sarah, for doing that, because it made such a difference. And I just think that's what we need to focus on as a history organization. We gotta tell those stories to everybody, and it also like volunteers. I think that's the key to getting volunteers too. You share some of those stories, they are passionate about it. So sorry I interrupted, but anyway, that was my take on all of it.
And I think too, seeing the stuff. When Tammy bring in the stuff, and you know, they hold up that long underwear set, they're like, what is this? And then when they see the butt flap, they're like, oh my, you know, and yeah, and then they get interested, and then start looking more stuff up, you know, like the chamber pot. Did they really use those? Yeah, why do you think they say we're going potty instead of pot, right? And so then they look that stuff up, and it gets them. So if you can take stuff in there, and you know, get them hands-on, get them to see it, because most kids, when they think of history, they think of writing down vocabulary, or, you know, it's, yeah, so that's pretty big. And then if you could find some joint projects with classes as well, like for the family
the consumer ed, we always call it home ec. So if you can have students, maybe as one of their projects, make some clothing that your interpreters can wear and donate that to the museum, that's awesome. And then, let's see, like the wood shop or tech ed, let's say your museum needs some benches to set outside your general store or something, maybe that's a project they can make and donate that to the museum. And then for like English and social studies, this year I did something new. We did a veteran profile where I had them choose a veteran whom was either a relative or who they knew, and then they had to do some sort of a profile on them. And then we're going to put them in a binder, and then hopefully maybe be able to keep that as a recording. But they got a grade for their English class because they had to use a certain layout and all that kind of stuff. So it served two purposes, and most students are really proud and they want to share that information. And if they didn't have a veteran, we looked up Wisconsin veterans, and then they researched that person. So there's all kinds of opportunities that you can do there. But I loved the thing about the cemeteries, and I wrote that, I added that. So veterans, find the veterans in local cemeteries, and students can research that either for a social studies class or an English class, either one. And then for the Project 250, have them make displays like you mentioned. We can talk about that a little bit more about the Declaration of Independence. And that could be for a class project, for a service project or whatever too. Let's see, National History Day, that's another thing that it's hard to get teachers involved in that because of the time period. I would have loved to have done a National History Day, but I couldn't do it. I coached forensics and it was always the same weekend, and but now that I'm a retired person and I have time, I would not mind being like a coordinator for schools. So schools could contact me, I could give them the information, set that up, and then the students could maybe work with your historical society and help them come up with ideas and stuff that they would need for their project. That's another thing. And then at the last meeting, there was also the discussion of the traveling trunk that every school, it shouldn't say school, it should have said museum. Yeah. Every museum in the consortium makes one, and then we could share it, we could spread it around. So there could be one on toys, Christmas, school supplies, games, music, clothes, so on and so forth. I think that'd be kind of neat, and then we could share.
National Honor Society students have to do a project, and that is a possibility. Sarah's daughter, Frankie, did one for our museum, a traveling trunk, and she put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, and hers was toys. And it was really cool because she could look through the catalog. So she learned a lot by doing it, as well as now having something that other places could use. And then those traveling trunks could go to schools. They could loan them from your museum, or we could figure something out with that.
Eagle Scouts also need projects.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know National Honor Society needed projects.
Oh,
Yeah.
they
In a lot of communities they do. I know Richmond does, and so does Clear Lake. Both of them do need to have so many hours and projects.
So they have to
But not every school does.
Yeah, it depends on their contract and their bylaws and all of that. So yeah, they have to come up with some sort of project.
How about the history club?
Yep, we're gonna go to that one next. We tried at Cameron. I tried to get a history club together, and I had all these great ideas in my head, but then implementing them and the time and it just kind of leaked out of existence. But we want to get something with local schools all together, not just Cameron. But go ahead.
So the consortium is probably familiar with that, because we've talked about it here. When Izzy came up with the idea, we had talked about it here, and maybe the possibility that they could all join in as they wanted, and we could do some joint programming for the kids.
And how do we get kids to do it is the big thing. And so we have to offer them some incentives. So we were talking about, a trip to Madison at least, so they could tour the Capitol and learn about that. We'll do some fun things too. But then eventually, as they do things with the History Club, they can earn a trip to DC. That's what we're kind of looking at.
They'd still have to fundraise for it.
Yes, but they could.
We did find a bank that wants to do matching funding, so if they raised half the money, the bank would pay for the other half.
So that would be a good incentive for kids, you know. But some ideas, obviously they're going to be doing stuff with local history and civics, projects and displays, so maybe making a time capsule. And there's been talk about a vets display at the museum, and they would, you know, be involved in creating something like that. Writing biographies for the people who are doing the role plays interpretations. If kids are into, you know, drama and that kind of thing, they can do that.
Or oral histories.
Yeah, making mini videos, so they're learning or teaching a skill on a video, like the smithing, the textiles, animal husbandry, food and stuff. They love making videos. Love that. So that's an idea, and then I've written down some other things from our discussion today. The historic markers thing, you know, have them start researching, finding the photo and the text that's going to go on the historic markers. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing, because they could see the actual results of that. And then, as mentioned before, you know, researching veterans in local cemeteries, and then doing some of the stuff for the 250, Project 250, yeah. So these are just some ideas that are going over, but I think the key is finding the teacher to work with. I think that's key. And, you know, looking at people who have retired, in, you know, in various capacities, but I think that's kind of a big thing.
So a little more on that, there's actually a National History Club for youth, and you could be part of that and still do your own thing like this. There's also something called Youth Powered through Wisconsin Humanities. I'm part of the, they have this fellows program now, and one of the things I talked about was this history club, and they told me, oh yeah, go look at this. They already have a youth powered program. Basically, you take a group of youth and say, look at your community and what needs to be fixed or changed or improved. And then they can come up with their own projects to work on, and that could be, what we couldn't figure out before when we were doing this, what are we going to, if you meet weekly or monthly or whatever, what are you going to have the kids do during that time? And that kind of answered that question. You could have them work on history day projects for one thing, but also kind of a civic club. Help make changes in your community that you think need to be made, something for the positive. I think you're teaching them to be good leaders and citizens.
And I think too, once we get our history club kind of lined up, you know, with its you know, the proceedings, I guess, then we could make that available to everybody, you know, and people can add, you know, we just don't have anything formalized or written up or, you know, what expectations are and stuff yet. We're still kind of in the idea phase. But I think it's a big thing that was that?
We've been a long time.
I know. But it's just getting kids involved. That's the struggle right now. You know, what's going to motivate students to sign up? Summer is the worst time to try to get kids to do stuff because they're so busy. So you'd almost have to have your meetings up during the school year. And when are you going to do that? Because they're in sports, they're in drama, they're in all this kind of stuff. It's hard. Mm-hmm. So we'll just, you know, we just have to figure some of that stuff out and get going.
We have a contest every year of getting kids to submit something to win some money to use for college. And,
The Historical Society?
Yeah, and anyway, we have the kids will interview somebody in the community, kind of like what she was saying about the veterans, you know, somebody locally and see what they can find out. How did one business get off the ground, or, you know, something kind of examining our area. But a few times we've run across kids that are completely foreign to that country. Maybe they just moved here. Maybe they don't really know the history of the area. Maybe they're from another country and they just, you know, moved here. Like one little girl jumped in one time and we had an immigrant display upstairs, and she said, "Well, I'm from, you know, China. You don't have anybody representing my group, you know." And So, and I thought, well, she makes a good
There's
point.
an opportunity, let her in, put something in there.
Now, is that how you base your scholarship? Is that the competition for the scholarship?
No, it's always different every year, and we try to, a lot of the things that she was just saying are things that we've gotten kids to write about. And whenever I have to evaluate those, I always look at, like, one of the kids worked with him about one of the banks in our area, and I looked at that bank's website to make sure they didn't lift anything directly from there. I want to make sure it's original. And so I think you make a good point about getting kids involved, but in our case, we've got so many different schools, if you're going to do it with one, you have to almost do it with all of them, and you maybe can't find a cooperating teacher in every single one of them. And I hope you don't burn yourself out. You've got a noble challenge there to get all those things going as a retired teacher.
So there's where you take advantage of, there's 9 historical societies, of which like 7 are active in Polk County, and you say, okay, as the county will lead, but St. Croix Falls is going to worry about the St. Croix Falls school district, and we'll kind of shepherd you along in that, so that you do some joint project. One of the things when we did this historical map thing, we need to enlist what local newspapers are left in thinking about doing something with these things too. Now, I sent out a press release on these markers in Polk County to the Polk County newspapers. Only the Osceola Sun picked up on it, and they actually interviewed the person doing it and said, boy, we would like to have a weekly paragraph or picture or so on each of the markers in our area around Osceola, and could you do that? And I said, well, I haven't heard, I know where Osceola is, but not much more. But if you talk to the Osceola Historical Society, they probably would do it. But then I got thinking, when you're talking, maybe you could get the 4th graders to be a blurb in the paper on some local marker that's in their area. But that newspaper business, older folks are the primary subscribers to it, so we hit that audience if we do things in there. The younger folks, and also with Facebook, that's mostly older people now too.
How long ago, I was going to ask you, how long ago did the local paper go out in Richmond?
Wow, I would,
10 years?
you always think it's something that is more. I would say probably 7, 8 years already.
So Gamer has one, Osceola has one, and Frederick has one. I
Clear
think
Lake has
what's
one.
left in Polk County.
Clear Lake has one,
Oh, Clear Lake, right, that's what
Clear Lake
they're,
says never
once
meet.
a month.
once a month.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to have, invite a history teacher to be on your board. We actually have a history teacher from Clear Lake on our board, and we have a great partnership with her 7th grade history class. She brings them to the museum. They have projects that they have to do. They have a veterans project that they have to do when they're in there. So, and she's active. She's a very active member on our board.
One of the problems with involving the school thing that the teachers have, especially in smaller schools, have a lot of preparations in different classes, and they have their lesson, if they've been at it a while, they have their lesson plans set up and don't like to be too straying from having to do new stuff. And so,
We had some, so in Clear Lake, they wrote a grant for display cases. And so once a month, there is a student that does those display cases, comes to the museum. The last one was Gaylord Nelson, because Gaylord Nelson was Clear Lake youth. So the last one was on Gaylord Nelson, the previous one was on military hats, the one before that was on farming. And so he sets it up at both of the schools, and so the kids have the opportunity to look at the stuff, and they do, the kids do look, because I brought a bunch of stuff for farming, and so when the kid brought me the box, he's like, I have no idea what this stuff is, explain it to me. So, that's a great opportunity, that was a great opportunity for us, to make a partnership with the school.
And then after you do that, then you invite the kids to come as volunteers. Seriously.
Yes, we have some new tour guides this summer, so I'm excited about that.
Our biggest age segment of growing volunteers, I think, is probably kids. They're coming with their parents, but they're the ones that bring their parents into it.
Yep, exactly.
Grade school age kids.
It's actually the museum's greatest compliment when the kids tell mom and dad, and whatever, let's go to the museum together. You made an impact.
Yeah, or grandparents.
Yep.
All right, fundraising ideas, you wanna talk any? Your time, it's already 12:10.
Just real briefly, I mean, it's not necessarily an idea, but it's just something that that our historical society is doing this year. In August, we're gonna do like a Pioneer Days event, so 10th and 11th. So on the 10th, we're hoping to have like pioneer craft vendors, so basically anybody that does like homemade anything. Yeah, anything homemade essentially, can sell something, you know, that whole day. And then Sunday, we're hoping to invite like antiques dealers or just people that have a lot of antiques that want to clear out their basement or whatever. So basically, it's just a booth fee, like a standard $25 like fee to set up a booth. And then throughout both of the days, we're hoping to have demonstrations of like, again, kind of pioneer type crafts. So Tammy was really generous and she gave me a list of people. Unfortunately, like 2 no's and a tentative yes so far. So if anybody knows anybody that does any kind of like pioneer crafting, basket making, soap making, anything that they would be willing to demonstrate, or you know, if they want to set up and have it to where people can come and try it, you know, that's a bigger undertaking. So I understand that people don't want to do that. But you know, I'm hoping to set up to have something where people can make their own like butter. Like stuff like that, but so if somebody knows anybody that wants to like set it up and allow people to do it, or if they just want to demonstrate it and or sell stuff that they make.
Do you have a soap maker?
I think I emailed one, but I don't think they got back to me yet.
There's one that's on our ramble up by Trade Lake. If you want, if you send an email to me,
Okay.
I'll pass it on to her.
Okay.
Do you have a blacksmith?
There's a blacksmith. There's a blacksmith, I can give you the contact.
Yeah, did you give her Julie Shannon?
I think I did.
Yeah, I did Julie. Yeah, I did email Julie.
And
I don't.
Karen.
Was Julie a quote maker? Was she the quote maker?
No, she's been.
I want to say one
I did.
of the two of them called me, I think, and they said like, oh, we have a guild that's meeting, so we'll bring it up with them, and you know, so hopefully, yeah.
Lori, you have a contact for a demonstrator for telling machine for Heritage Days. I can't think of her name, Lisa?
We don't have anyone.
Television, don't you have an address?
You don't have somebody that comes in for Heritage Days or something?
No.
Wow.
Also, she was bringing up a high school student that does trapping.
Oh, cool.
And it's a girl, so it's really
yeah,
not traditional, so that makes it cool. Another fundraiser that we're doing that I think is kind of unique to bring up too on, I think it's August 20th, is the Baron Spotlighters are coming and we're providing the meal, but it's a murder mystery, maybe not a murder mystery dinner. So we provide the food, but they're doing all the work because they're coming up with, the people will go from one spot to another and try to figure out this. I gave them a story that had actually happened in Barron County back in the early 1900s, like 1902 or something. And then they're changing the outcome because people could actually go back and look at what happened. And they're doing this with other organizations too. So it doesn't, I mean, ours works well because we have the multiple spots, but they did it like at the VFW. So they'll come up with a story that fits in the space you have. So check with your local theater groups because it's a fundraiser for them and a fundraiser for us.
When is this?
That one is August 20th, I believe. And then we're doing another thing where we have a gal that does, she has a horse and buggy and she has been coming and just driving it around, you know, but now, because I've always wanted to do Victorian picnics, and then she wants to do these rides, so we put them together, so for $50 a person, so it sounds kind of high, but I think it's worth it. People will get a guided tour through the village, and then take them to a little bit more remote spot. It'll still be on the ground, so we'll have picnic tables set up, and then they'll have a Victorian picnic. So I don't know how it's gonna work yet, but hopefully it works well, and again, not a lot of effort on our part.
So with fundraising, you make, what, $15 per book that you sell in Avery, and you sold, what, 20 of them, or 200 of them?
Almost.
Almost. So see, that's a pretty good return.
Yeah, and the money that I get from the book, I just put it back into a fund to buy the next printing. Yeah, so it's not really,
So pretty soon they'll pay for themselves.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to do what, lighting sessions, well, it's already 12:15.
And we're doing a little,
We are doing the tour, yep, of the buildings, yep.
does anybody have a lightning session that they're dying to share? Do we want to process the meeting?
Lots of good discussion and ideas generated.
I think the only thing is just at the beginning, I think when we introduce ourselves, it should just be a really quick introduction and save the like updates and all of that kind of stuff for like the actual agenda item, so that we don't get bogged down like right away and then we end up trying to rush through the end of like
I agree.
the last agenda items.
I agree.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So are we, wait, on the, I guess adjourn is there, but
Oh,
we're for sure meeting at Fort Spog on that?
That's what she
right?
said. I think that was mine.
And then,
she mentioned it. So.
and then the December meeting, which would be, December would be
Is it the 10th? Is it the second Tuesday,
the
right?
10th, December 10th.
That'll be Labor
Do we do it, Avery?
in December, yes.
Okay.
So Amy, guys, that's my birthday, so.
Well,
You're running treats for your birthday, right? The September one is September 9th.
The 10th.
10th.
Yeah.
September
10th.
Yeah.
That's Tuesday, yes.
It's Tuesday, we gotta get out of our den.
So remember the organization that's hosting, they're responsible for the agenda. If they don't wanna do it, let us know. And then, they also run the meeting. And we like sometimes to tour afterwards. That's not a have to, but we do like that. Okay, now go ahead and adjourn.
okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. All right, we have first and a second. All right, and we do have the buildings open. And I can do a quick tour for those who would like to do it.
Do you want us to pick tables and chairs?
No, so the tables we're gonna leave up because, we are going to have to set up a display tomorrow. We'll have an open house for, the, cyclone anniversary.
Can we leave our stuff in here?
Yeah.
For the tour?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not doing anything tomorrow, WITC and Peter will have, information on the cyclone.
Information on what?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I get it.
Information on what?
So the district cyclone, the 18
I can show you how.
the 10th worst is in the
Oh, no, I was talking about the 10th worst thing.
cyclone.
Yeah. I'm gonna be there on,
Yes, well,
Since I retired.
I insisted. How many at the wedding?
Probably.
The most, yeah. They have plenty of chairs. Plenty of chairs. Okay. That banquet table is what they usually use for catering. That's what it's probably.
Yeah.
On the round table, is that something that you
yes.
Sooner rather than later. I think